This is your friend Darren Iman, the master of shenanigans, and last week I shot a video about buying cheap art supplies, magic supplies, whatever one needs on a budget, and today we are going to try out my hastily made overhead camera holder, and here it is. For those of you who missed it, I purchased this from Value Village. This was just a little how to build a tent for kids. I cut it up, made it all. I'm gonna hang a camera from here, and we're gonna give this a try. Normally I would, I'm gonna be doing some drawing today. Normally I would be using my drafting table over here, but unless I hung the camera from the ceiling somewhere, that's not gonna work, and I didn't go through all of this trouble for nothing. So I'm gonna place it over my drawing table, aka my kitchen table. I've got tools of the trade, a delicious non-alcoholic beverage, sketchbook, pencil, a couple of markers, and we're ready to go. So I'm going to set that up, and we're going to do my favorite Marvel character today and do a Daredevil sketch. Here we go. And we are back. I wish I could show you just how precariously this thing is hung up. It's just hanging from some electrical tape, and but it works. So at any moment this could very well come crashing down, but that's cool. That's how one learns, right? Okay, here we go. Let's do a really quick Daredevil. Normally I'd use a thicker drafting pencil with like a harder lead, like a 2H, but I don't know how well this is going to turn out, so I'm just going to use a quick mechanical pencil, just because these come with a, when I purchase them, I buy them in bulk, these come with a an HB lead, and I'm just thinking that that would probably show up a little bit better on camera than something that's a harder lead. Okay, here we go. We're going to do the general pose, offset the hips and the shoulders. So the hips are this way, the shoulders are that way. One knee forward, one leg coming forward, one leg receding in space a little bit. Same thing with the arm, one arm kind of coming forward and one arm receding in space. Create as many dimensions, as many planes as we possibly can. I don't want to move too much because I'm afraid this whole camera is going to come crashing down on me. So the stick figure, the most important part. I didn't intend for this to be a lesson, but I'm going to be chatting while I draw, so why not? Stick figure, the most important part of any sketch. Without a good foundation, we can't lay anything down. So I'm going to rough this out, and then we'll be doing most of the work in ink. I'm going to be giving myself about 5-10 minutes for this. Already, let's see that the pecs are too small. So the idea behind roughing this out is that if I was to, like, for instance, draw something over here and say, oh, you know what, that line's not right, erase it, go back, oh, that's not right, erase it, go back, oh, that's, you know, you get the idea. I would redraw whatever this is probably about 100 times, erasing it, redrawing it, erasing it, redrawing it. Well, after about the 100th time, I'm going to get it right, doing it over and over and over again. Eventually I'm going to get it, right? Well, the idea here is that's exactly what I'm doing. If you see, I've drawn this pec 1, 2, 3, I don't even want to count the amount of times, but this pectoral muscle, I've probably drawn it about 50 times right in front of you. Except, rather than use my eraser, when I don't like a line, I just keep going, keep going, keep going, and eventually I'm going to erase this. Erase all the lines that I don't need, and we will have something. So, speed is the key, just roughing in the basic musculature here. Alright, there we go. This is kind of weird. Normally I would be, this is like the first time that I'm not drawn to music. Normally I'd have loud music in here, but because this is my first ever YouTube channel, which by the way, if you guys are watching this, thank you so much. You have no idea how much this kind of helps. Now I have to have royalty-free music. So I spent some time, I went over to a buddy's house the other day, my friend Blair's place, and I'm teaching myself how to do all of this stuff. And I asked him, I was actually more son Corey, I asked him like, how in the hell would I get royalty-free music? Because if I just listened to any of the stuff that I play on a daily basis, I wouldn't be able to post it because I would get sued. And he showed me this site with a bunch of orchestral stuff that I could use. And I downloaded a bunch of it, so now whenever I post videos that don't have any sound, any of me blathering and yakking, we can have some music. But in the interim here, I'm just gonna keep talking. Am I even allowed to mention like what kind of bands I'd be listening to right now? This is just like a whole weird thing for me. Like even when I'm set up at Comic Cons or anywhere that I'm set up, if I have a table and I'm sitting there drawing, I'm listening to music. I usually just off my cell phone or whatever. But I think I can. I think I'm allowed. I think YouTube would tell me. Well, let's keep it safe. If anything, I would be listening to right now like a lot of industrial. Very fast, very heavy. I don't like industrial music. That sounds too much like techno. I like more KMFDM, Frontline Assembly, Spawn Ranch, Project Pitchfork. So even as I say this, I'm thinking like, oh, I'm going to get in trouble here. But I mostly have a mix of what I would call post-punk and industrial on my playlist. I have Spotify, but I don't pay for it, so I have to be on the internet to listen to Spotify, and it's always being interrupted by commercials. Spotify, for those of you who do pay for it, you know that you can be out and about and listen to Spotify whenever you want, but I don't have a data plan, and I don't pay for the service. So if you have not guessed based on this and last week's video, I am cheap. I just had a wonderful dinner consisting of the best Mr. Noodles money can buy. But when you're passionate about something, that's where the money goes. And I often joke that, it's not even a joke, but I often say my cat eats much better than I do. Because I love my cat and I spend a lot of money on him. I get the best food for him, and he's happy and he's healthy, and I eat crap. But okay, this is getting a little bit actually more involved than I wanted it to. I could be doing a lot of this with the ink. I think this has something to do with just, it's my first time ever drawing on tape, and I kind of really want to get it right, which is not a good thing. I mean, it's a good thing that I want to get it right, but anytime, here's another hint for all of you people at home, anytime you're sketching and you start to really slow down because you're kind of crippled by, oh geez, I don't want to screw this up, and you, I describe it getting closer and closer and closer to the paper. So I like to sit back. So I'll repeat that because a big motorbike just went by. I like to sit back draw loose, as you can tell, but if I start getting closer and closer and closer and closer and closer to the paper, and I start getting really, really anal about the details, then I'm going to lose all of that rough kind of emotion. So having said that, you know what? Practice what I preach. Let's get in with some ink here, and then I can add the details of like the face and the hands later, which I generally take a lot more time with getting the facial expression. I can't remember who it was that said that in figure drawing, the hands and the face convey the most amount of emotion, or are the most important parts to any sketch. So. But again, this is still rough. With inks, this is a stage where I usually slow it right down. But two reasons. One, it's just a quick sketch. It's not something that I want to do super polished. It's just for the website, for the YouTube account. And two, because he's Daredevil, and Daredevil's costume, kind of like Batman's, even though Daredevil is red, has just a lot of black to it. So it doesn't really matter that this is, if some of these lines I don't want to keep, I'll just be blacking them out. It's one of the things that's so cool about Daredevil's costume, is that it's just the darkest red. It's like a crimson. Just kind of do a couple more abs here. He's on the superhero diet. What is the superhero diet? I would love to know. Apparently it involves getting blasted by radioactive waste or getting bitten by a radioactive spider. But you get awesome abs. I can pretty much confirm that the superhero diet does not consist of Mr. Noodles. Okay. Dun, 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 dun. Oh, and one thing I forgot, Daredevil has his, I think it's on his right leg. I could be mistaken, but I'm going to go on the right leg, just in case. He has his billy clubs. And here I'm going to need to put in a little bit of whiteout. That's okay, because I'm going to be using a lot of whiteout for cleanup and effects, but my cat Conan is currently eating art supplies that I've left lying around on the kitchen table. Every advantage in life, this guy, and look at you. Still can't get it together. So no reference here. The anatomy, one of the good things about just drawing this really, really rough is that the anatomy is going to be less than perfect, let's put it that way. But that's okay, because it's going to be kind of a rough sketch anyway. It's not intended to be photorealistic, so I can get away with cheating on certain things. Check and see if we're still, I gotta stand up on a chair just to make sure the camera's still working. We're still shooting. Yeah, we are. Alright. Probably shook the image a little bit. The camera's just barely hanging there. Sip of a non-alcoholic beverage. Those of you who don't know, I moved to Sault Ste. Marie from Montreal, specifically to get sober. And I moved here just because, you know, all my family's here. I love Montreal, but I figured if I had a chance, beating the booze would be amongst family. So cousins, aunts, uncles. I live with my mom and dad, whose house I'm currently house sitting right now because they are out of town. And oh, here we go. We got everything done except for the hands. So let's draw. Take a bit of time here. Generally, even if I'm not photo referencing anything, if I'm just drawing it all out of my head, I'll still use the camera feature on my phone, take a picture of my own hands just to get these right. As I said, they are very important. Okay. And for this, what I'm going to do is I'm actually just going to, well, let's have him holding a billy club. I'll use my own hand here as reference. And I will skip the pencils. It's taking a little bit longer than I wanted it to. When I teach drawing, I'm always pushing people to go fast, because really that is the ultimate number one thing that cripples people in their drawing, is just slowing right down, getting too worried. Getting too anal about it, slowing down. Okay. Now, let's go back in with the pencil. And get the face going here. Same idea, just keeping it nice and rough. Try not to get my head inside the shot by leaning in too much, but I might have to get over it a little bit more. Big chin. Gotta give him superhero proportions. Okay, head drawn, mask drawn, ink. And I'm not, obviously as you can tell, slavishly devoted to the lines that I've laid down. This is a rough sketch after all, so even with the ink, I'm going to kind of adjust on the fly. Okay, now we get to do the fun part. The shading. Oh, I lied. Forgot Daredevil's most important feature. The devil horns. Okay. The D I'm just going to do with some whiteout later. And let us now really spot the blacks. Spotting blacks is just how it sounds. Laying in solid pools of black. So here the light is going to be somewhat behind him. Semi-light source is going to be here. And Daredevil's costume is highly reflective, so I like to think of like a steel ball bearing when I'm drawing him, what that would look like. And this fist is a little too small, but thanks to what I had said earlier about being able to adjust kind of on the fly with the black, I can just make it a little bit bigger with the markers. So as you can see, heavy, heavy, heavy pools of black. Very, very reflective costume. Just anywhere that I think is retreating from the light, hiding away from the light, I'm going to spot that in black. So the light hits a lot of these areas and the black runs away, and wherever it ends up, I color it in. I don't know an easier way to say that. You know, at every comic convention that I've ever been to, since I was a kid, I would always ask, what kind of markers do you use? What kind of pencils do you use? What kind of paper do you use? All the professionals, that many of whom have now become my friends, and they pretty much all give the same answer. It's the answer that I now give, now that I am working professionally in the industry, and that is that, you know, sorry youngster, there is no magic pencil or magic brush or magic anything that'll let you draw like the pros. It doesn't exist. It's all just in practice. So this is a China marker that I'm using. I get these at Stone's art supply store downtown Sault Ste. Marie, where I have a credit, and I always go in and buy way more than I should until I get crazy, or I start getting letters in the mail from the good folks down at Stone's with what I owe them, and it's always ridiculous, and I start to get stressed out, and I let that run up as long as I can until I get a half-decent paying job, which are few and far between here in Sault Ste. Marie. But as I said, I'm here for health. Montreal was a little more lucrative in the arts. And then I go down to Stone's and I pay my tab and rinse and repeat for all these art supplies that I enjoy, which I never have money to buy. But you know, most people get into debt buying cars and houses and stuff. I don't have that luxury because so many years spent drinking. I don't have any credit, and I don't want any of those things. I'm not a materialistic person, so all of my debts come with magic and art supplies. which I probably should mention that a great friend of mine, the amazing Toddski, has his own magic shop in Montreal where I order all my magic supplies. And oh man, I really want to get a plug-in for him. I don't have anything in front of me right now. I should have thought of this before, but I am definitely going to do this. I'm going to put a link, so for all of you who maybe decide like, hey, I want to get into magic, I want to get into drawing or something, rather than just do these, I can actually help you out and show you where to go. So I will be getting that information from him. I'll call him today, get a link where you can order magic supplies online. I'll even recommend some stuff in later videos. This is, like I said, just a China marker. These are any kind of marker will do. Normally I like to use India ink and a brush, but this is faster. For here, this is a Staedtler 0.1, which I haven't even used yet. This is a I don't even know, 0.2. Let's use the 0.2 to do some cross-hatching. Actually, first let's deepen up some of these pools of black so we have something to cross-hatch out of. Okay, here we go. I think maybe in future sketches I might take a bit more time and just do what a lot of guys on the internet do. I don't know if you've seen a lot of Twitch streams, different things like that, where people will draw on the internet, and what they'll do is they'll take their time. They'll actually really do something a little bit more polished than this. Not that I'm not happy with the way it turned out. And then they'll just kind of speed up the video. So it'll end up being about the same length as mine. But, you know, this is cool. It's in real time. This is what you could expect to get if you saw me at a Comic-Con and you said, hey, can you draw me a Daredevil? This would be about 20 bucks. Actually, scratch that. This would be about 30, because, you know, I gotta milk those Comic-Cons for as much as I can. Those are money makers for me, especially because I have such a hard time getting out to them. If there's a local Comic-Con, I'm all over it. I'm gonna milk it as much as I can. So hatching here is just kind of represents what would be gray. We got our solid pools of black, and we got areas that are sort of in between, right? But not too much, because, like I said, his costume is so reflective that it's more just giant swells of black than anything. Like right now, if you didn't know that this was Daredevil, because I haven't sort of put his logo on here. I mean, I guess you could recognize because of the horns and whatnot, but you might not think that this costume is red. You might think that this is some kind of totally black costume, which is why this looks so cool when it's in color. But yeah, so now that I'm saying that, I think that definitely the next sketch that I'll do a fully inked painted sketch, illustration, maybe even with background, fully laid out, and just kind of speed up the video so you won't be having to watch this for like 3 hours or even longer. If it's like a full color, we're talking about a day or two worth of work, and we're certainly not going to be filming that in real time. So maybe I'll do that next. But in the interim, let's finish hatching this here. There you go. Now it's cross-hatching. Before it was just hatching. Now I've crossed the lines. Which is how I live my life. Always crossing the line. Anything else is boring. I really can't stand the politically correct world that we live in. It's driven all humor out of any possible attempt at conversation. However, I will admit that there are those who use their aversion to political correctness, which I share, as a means to justify ignorant behavior. But you know, I'm going to stop here. I don't want to get too political here. Yes, back to the non-alcoholic beverage. You'll be happy to know that I am now, as of this Christmas, which we're in summer right now, but as of Christmas Day, I will be celebrating 6 years of continuous sobriety. Long enough, I think, to hopefully return to Montreal. Sault Ste. Marie's been good to me. It saved my life. But there's just not much here for a man whose career is doing card tricks and drawing superheroes and essentially one who makes their living with shenanigans. Oh, and I need the whiteout, which I have over here on my pencil case, and I'm not going to detach my precariously hanging camera. Just move this into frame to get that out. So, clean up. Taking out the things that I don't like, that didn't work. This is just essentially my eraser. Let that dry. Oh, I know what I have to do. Uh-oh. Let's fix this here. My electrical tape lost its grip. Move this into frame. I'm really going to be leaning. Hey, that's okay. I've lost my grip a long time ago. Alright. We're still in business. DD. Now let's let this dry. Here would be a good time to speed up the video. The banality of watching whiteout dry. So, but instead of doing that, while I'm waiting. No, this part's dry, I think. Nope. Good way to run a marker. Alright. Let's go ahead and sign this. Okay, so here's what I should do, because this is only like the 3rd or 4th video I've shot. I just set up the YouTube account. Let's leave some comments, guys. I know other YouTubers with experience, people who know more than I do, always encourage comments, so who am I to argue? If anyone out there, tell you what, the first 3 people who comment a character that they'd like to see drawn, those will be the next ones that I'll do. You know what, let me commit to 1 for now. I'll likely do the first 3. But I don't want to be held to something that I can't deliver on. So let's commit to 1. The first person to leave, hey Darren, I want you to draw this character next, is what I will do. And I'll probably take my time with it, edit the video down so it's not totally in real time. Now that I think about it, that's marketing brilliance right there. Having someone, sort of interactive, people say, hey, I want to see this character, I want to see this, I want to see this. Gives them a reason to tune back in, and you know what? The internet allows us a personal connection that movies and television don't, where one can actually interact as if you were right there in the room. So that's what I love about the different YouTubers that I follow. I feel like I actually kind of get to know them. So why not? Leave a list of, leave a character, supervillain, superhero, whatever that you want to see. Don't say like, oh, here's a photo of my parents' dog, could you draw that? And don't come up with some inane, you know, flavor of the month anime character that I've never heard of, but something that I would be familiar with, and I'll draw that next. So this turned out all right for a really quick sketch from start to finish, real time. Hope everyone enjoyed that. Let me peel just to show you how precariously this is hung. There we go. We've just peeled the electrical tape where this camera was hanging from, and this is my overhead display, and you can see, yeah, it's a little rickety, but hey, it seemed to have worked. So here it is, no editing to do. I am just now going to upload this video. There's the man without fear. Now he has, I just noticed, he's got 2 batons here and a third one in his hand, so one of these should be missing, but that's cool. This was just a test for my overhead camera display. And I look forward to reading the comments. We'll see everybody next time.